Hello, our topic is animal testing and whether it is ethical and where the boundary should be drawn for testing on animals. My name's Jace Pitcher.
I'm Allie Jorgensen.
And I'm Taylor Perry.
So just to start off with the introduction to animal testing, to give you guys a background on what it is and what we will be covering on the slides is, does Animal Welfare Act do enough to protect animals used in research and in testing? As well as, is it ethical to use animals to test therapeutics for humans or cosmetics? So essentially asking, is it ethical to test medical drugs and other things on animals, or is there certain things that would be okay to test on animals? Is there exceptions to the rule if it comes for the benefit of humans? The key context would be animal testing has led to major scientific and medical breakthroughs, but remains one of the most debated ethical issues in modern research. The purpose of this topic and this debate and our slideshow is to examine both sides here, see the benefits of it, and as well as the cons that come to animal testing. Those who believe in animal testing is still necessary for progress, and those who argue that it is outdated and inhumane to be testing these drugs and theories and experiments on animals. We'll hop into just a short video to kind of give a background on what is animal testing and why people are talking so much about it.
Soap, shower gel, toothpaste. Should animals ever be needed to test out the ingredients of things we use to clean ourselves and make us look nice? Well, it's a question being asked right now, and here's Nina to explain.
Animal testing is a big issue. Lots of people have strong opinions on the controversial topic. Now, animal testing is when animals are used to test if things like chemicals and medicines are safe for humans to use. Around the world, millions of lab animals are used. Now, here in the UK, there are some areas where animal testing is allowed. For example, medicines have to be tested on animals before they can be tested on humans. There are rules in place too. The people carrying out the research must get permission from the government before any testing begins. Unlike medicines, it's different for cosmetics. That's things like makeup, shower gel, toothpaste. For the past 25 years, there's been a ban in place stopping any animal testing on those products. So why is animal testing in the news now? Well, it's because testing has been allowed on some ingredients that make up cosmetics. The government haven't changed the law, the ban is still in place, but they did change the policy. That's the guidelines they must follow as part of the law. They did this to match the European Union rules, which do allow some animal testing on ingredients to make sure they're safe for workers to handle. Animal rights groups and big brands like Boots and Body Shop have said the policy shouldn't have been changed. The government say that the ban on using animals to test cosmetic products is still in place. But animal rights groups say that in reality, the ban has been lifted by allowing these tests to take place.
So there you see some of the different controversies as well, as far as like animals being used to test for cosmetics instead of just for like medical and health reasons. So just some more background on animal testing. Animal testing goes back to ancient Greece, so a long, long time ago, where scientists studied animals' anatomy to understand different diseases. Today, it's used to test medicine, chemicals, and cosmetic safety, as we kind of just learned about in that video. Some supporters behind animal testing say it's needed for progress, and they would say that it's better to kind of sacrifice, you would say, an animal instead of testing this on humans. Testing helped create COVID-19 vaccine and saved millions of lives. So obviously there is huge benefits that can come to animal testing, that can come from animal testing. The opposition or opponents would point out that the new methods like computer models, organ on a chip tech, and cell cultures can replace animal testing. So obviously we've advanced so much in science and technology. We can grow cells and stuff in labs. So there should be other ways, they would argue, to test these cosmetics and how the body would react to different drugs. There's something that is called the 3 R's principle. It's replace, reduce, and refine. Guides labs to use fewer animals and cause less pain when possible. So you hear the replace, reduce, and refine. So you're trying to kind of hone in and just use as like sacrifice or test as little number of animals as possible in order to preserve the life of as many animals as possible. The laws and regulations of animal testing, this shows here in the United States as well as international over primarily in Europe. So starting in the United States, one of the biggest laws is the Animal Welfare Act in 1966. It sets standards for animal housing and treatment, but leaves out rats, mice, and birds used in 95% of labs. So that's most of the time, I think when we all think about animal testing, we probably think of like rats and mice. I know that's when you Google it, that's a lot of the pictures that come up. And the USDA oversees enforcement, but animal groups say the law doesn't go far enough. It needs to protect more species and be more protective over all types of animals. And in 2022, the FDA Modernized Act 2 passed, allowing new drugs to be tested using non-animal alternatives, which seems to be making progress. And then as far as the laws go internationally, not in America, the European Union banned animal testing for cosmetics in 2013, which was huge, pushing companies towards cruelty-free methods. So not testing allergic reactions and stuff on animals. And over 40 countries, including countries like Australia and Mexico, have now banned or at least put limits on cosmetic animal testing, which helps a lot in just moving the overall world and helping protect these animals in this animal testing.
Okay, so for why people support animal testing, it's actually been used to create like life-saving medicines and vaccines. People who support animal testing say that it's great for medical progress, and they believe that it's helped make the vaccines, medicines, and other treatments that end up saving lives. Scientists also use them to learn how diseases work and where they come from. Almost every medical treatment has been used on animal research, and that's just kind of sad for the animals. Supporters say that all these benefits outweigh the harm. So it's like saving lives, but it's like animals, you know. And people also see animal testing necessary if it's benefiting the humans. Again, saving the lives, yes. Supporters admit that it's not perfect, like it's not a perfect way to go about things, but they think since it benefits the humans so much, it's worth it as long as the animals are being treated right, which sometimes they aren't. Okay, and then why people oppose to animal testing. Animals also experience pain, fear, and suffering, just like humans do. So it's like, yeah, you're saving humans' lives, but it's like the animals can still feel everything that the humans do. Rats, mice, and birds in labs aren't protected by the Animal Welfare Act, just like Jace was saying earlier. Most lab-like animals, they don't have the legal protection. So, yeah. It's seen as unethical and unnecessary today, just because with our new technology and everything, like computer models and animal cell testing, a lot of people think that it's not worth it to test on animals anymore when we have all this brand new technology coming out. Some places like the European Union have also banned animal testing for cosmetics because of those reasons, just like Jace was saying earlier. And then we have this video.
Animal testing is when non-human animals are used in experiments. Animals can be tested on numerous different experiments, including to determine the toxicity of chemicals, as well as whether or not products are suitable for humans. In this video, we will look at both sides of the argument, examining why certain people think animal testing should happen and why others staunchly oppose it. The arguments for and against animal testing have been put into 3 groups: ethical arguments, arguments about the efficiency of animal testing, and arguments about the cost of animal testing. Let's start with ethical arguments, by far the most popular type of argument used to defend or attack animal testing. Firstly, we need to understand what an ethical argument is. Ethics concerns what is morally right and wrong, so ethical arguments for or against animal testing focus on whether or not it is morally right or wrong. Proponents of animal testing argue that it is morally right as it has helped with the development of many life-saving treatments for both humans and animals. Opponents of animal testing argue, on the other hand, that it is cruel and inhumane to the animals and that there are often alternative methods that could be used to test product suitability for humans. There is also the moral argument that animal testing is acceptable because animals are inferior to humans. They lack sentience and reason and have historically been considered inferior throughout many different times and cultures. Opponents say that this argument does not speak to the benefits of animal testing. Instead, it attempts to justify humans causing harm and suffering to animals, simply for the sake of it. Animal testing can also be justified or criticised on grounds of efficiency. Efficiency means getting the most out of something, not wasting resources. So proponents of animal testing argue that animals are very close to humans when it comes to DNA and organs, meaning that testing on them provides insight into humans. However, opponents would argue that we are not that similar to the animals that are being tested upon. We are bigger, we have different skeletons, etc., making testing on them a waste of their lives. Plus, opponents would also argue that tests on animals do not always reliably predict results in humans, meaning some drugs that harm animals help humans, and some that harm humans do not harm animals, again furthering the argument that animal testing is inefficient. The final group of arguments for or against animal testing concerns cost. In terms of cost, opponents of animal testing argue that it is a waste of money, as the results are not necessarily predictive of results in humans, and the same tests can be done for cheaper via stem cells and synthetic organs, for example. Proponents would argue, on the other hand, that animal testing saves money, as it avoids lawsuits and the cost of drugs having to be remade if they fail human trials. Overall, it seems that animal testing is favoured by some because they think it helps save lives. They argue that by testing on a living organism before humans, it helps speed up the process of producing new drugs for patients. On the other hand, opponents of animal testing question whether it is really worth the pain and the suffering it causes them, as it is expensive, not always reliable, and has many different alternatives. That's animal testing for you. Thanks for watching. Please like, please share, and please subscribe.
Basically, because this is a health ethics class, we're going to be focusing on some of like the ethical theories and principles that go along with animal testing. So here's some justifications for animal testing. Beneficence is basically the ethical principle of just doing good. Animal testing has led to many scientific discoveries which have saved lives. Utilitarianism is the ethical theory, which basically states that something is ethical if it does good for the most amount of people. So in this case, the benefit to humans would outweigh the harm to animals. Okay, here's some ethical arguments against animal testing. Autonomy. So basically, animals aren't able to provide consent, and so that could be considered unethical to be able to be testing them for these things. Non-maleficence is basically the principle of not doing harm. So animal testing may cause pain, distress, or even death, which violates this ethical principle. Deontology is the theory which basically we don't want to use animals as a means to an end because that would be considered wrong. And then virtue ethics is basically just like focusing on kindness and empathy. Animal testing would violate virtues of that if we're directing that towards animals. Okay, so here's our question. How should we balance scientific progress, which improves human wellness, with the moral responsibility to protect animals that are unable to advocate for themselves? Okay, in conclusion, these ethical theories support both sides of the animal testing debate. On one side, there's a significant human benefit, and then on the other side, there's concern for the welfare of animals. These potential ethical solutions include limiting the number of animals that are used in testing, refining the procedures to potentially minimize the suffering, and using alternative forms that we talked about earlier of testing, and just continuously evaluating and trying to update as new technology advances. And then here are our sources. Thank you.